I never thought a mere office lockdown would reveal a heartbreaking secret about a millionaire. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The alarms screamed like banshees, echoing through the sterile hallways. My heart pounded, a chaotic drum in my chest. As we were herded into the conference room, panic painted the faces around me. The walls felt like they were closing in, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like angry bees. I could smell the rising anxiety in the air, sharp and suffocating. We huddled together, whispering, arms around each other for comfort in our shared fear. I never expected a day at the office could spiral into such horror. Julian, our CEO, was a mystery wrapped in designer suits. To the world, he was untouchable, a millionaire with a perfect life. But I had seen the cracks his trembling hands when he thought no one was watching, the way his smile failed to reach his eyes. I was just another employee, a speck in his grand empire, but somehow, I felt drawn to his quiet pain. Today, it felt different. Something darker loomed behind his facade. As we waited, the muffled sounds of sirens wailed in the distance, each wail sending shivers down my spine. I could barely breathe. My mind raced. What was happening outside? Why had they locked us in? The seconds turned into minutes, stretching into an eternity. Murmurs grew into a storm of speculation. "It's a drill," someone said, but the fear in their voice betrayed them. We could hear the thud of footsteps, the rattle of doors. Shadows moved just beyond our confines. Suddenly, he burst in, eyes wild, looking like a man who'd just seen the devil. "Everyone, stay calm." Julian's voice cut through the tension, but it held a tremor. "We've had an incident." "An incident?" My chest tightened. The walls felt even closer now. I noticed people exchanging worried glances, whispers of uncertainty whipping through the room. Then, like a spark in a powder keg, the air thickened with secrets. I caught a glimpse of something in Julian's expression, a mixture of fear, desperation, and what looked like guilt. It was then that I noticed the pulse of his wrist, the glint of a watch that seemed too extravagant for someone in his position. My gut twisted. What was beneath this polished surface? As he stammered to explain, another loud bang echoed outside, drowning out his words. People screamed. My heart pounded in my ears. I wanted to flee, but I felt chained to that moment, breathing in the sense of sweat and desperation. Julian's eyes darted, panic rising like a wave. "We need to disclose something," he said, his voice breaking. "Something about my family." My breath hitched. Was this the secret I had sensed all along? Was everything I believed about him just a mirage? Before he could continue, the lights flickered, and darkness swallowed us whole. I felt a deep chill seep into my bones, and the weight of unresolved questions fell heavy on my shoulders. What had I stumbled into? What truths lay buried beneath his carefully crafted facade? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The darkness enveloped us like a heavy blanket, muffling all sound and closing out the world beyond those four stark walls. My mind raced, churning with unease as I sensed the fear bubbling among my colleagues. Broken whispers and quiet sobs punctured the silence, a haunting symphony of despair that amplified my own anxiety. That I focused on Julian, whose silhouette loomed even larger in the dimness. His visible distress clawed at my heart, stirring something deep inside me, an urge to comfort him, yet I hardly knew him. What could one person say to another when a storm like this unleashed chaos? I clenched my fists, struggling to find a way to support someone who appeared to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders. "Julian?" A soft voice broke through the silence, likely from one of the finance team. "What happened? Please, just tell us what we need to know." I could feel the collective breath of the room, everyone clinging to hope that somehow the unfolding disaster would not reach us. Julian exhaled shakily, and for a moment, I thought he might shatter under the immense pressure that I just need you all to understand, he started, words catching in his throat. There are things in my life, me family, that you don't know about. Things that have come back to haunt us. The flickering fluorescent lights cast unsettling shadows across his face. For the first time, I noticed more than just fear. There was a flicker of regret and perhaps something darker, an unspoken sin lurking just beneath the surface. My heart raced as I thought of his earlier tremors, the restless glances. Haunt us? Another voice cut in, a mix of confusion and distrust creeping into the tone. What do you mean? One of my family members. He hesitated, and the weight of unspoken words filled the room like a dense fog. There's a reason for the lockdown. A reason they're searching for me, panic ignited, spreading like wildfire among the group. Shadows danced in the corners of the room, where once they had merely been an inconvenience. Now, they felt alive, threatening, surrounding us, watching that a woman seated near me clasped her hands, her knuckles white. What do you mean, Julian? Are we in danger? I don't know, he admitted, voice cracking like glass. But there are people looking for me. People who think they've lost everything. People who may not stop until they get what they want. Fear twisted my insides. The tension was tangible, suffocating. What was this life he led, lurking beneath the surface? I leaned in closer, desperate for clarity, but before I could ask another question, the lights flickered again and then darkness. That moment lingered, a breath held in the face of looming dread. I closed my eyes, attempting to block out the uncertainty, seeking solace in my own thoughts. This wasn't just about Julian anymore, it was about us, every one of us trapped in this room with him. But just as I began to wrestle with the overwhelming dread, a small flicker of light briefly illuminated the room. It came from Julian's phone, a lifeline in the darkness. He quickly shone it onto his face, revealing his expression brimming with a resolve that seemed foreign given the circumstances. Please, he said, his voice firm now though still strained. I know this is terrifying, but we can face this together. We have to stay calm. If we panic, it will only make things worse. A flicker of something hopeful surged through me at his words, his urgency transformed into a rallying cry against the fear. In that moment, vulnerability became strength. Slowly, members of the team seemed to huddle closer together, creating a small, collective fortress against the ominous unknowns that lay beyond the walls. But as those small moments of connection bloomed in the trembling air, I noticed Julian's expression change again. The light from his phone caught something glistening in his hands, and my heart sank when I saw what he held, a small, crumpled piece of paper, torn, stained, and worn. With trembling fingers, he unfolded it, revealing more than I had bargained for. Someone sent this to me last week, he said quietly. Eyes scanning the words that contained secrets I knew we weren't ready for. And then, as if the walls themselves knew it was time to blow apart, a loud bang erupted from outside the conference room, drowning everything out. The door shook violently, and I leapt back, heart pounding against my chest. Julian's grip tightened on the note, and I felt my own breath catch in my throat. We need to hide it, he whispered, urgency in his voice. Before they find out, what truth was he guarding? And just how deep did this reckless journey plunge into the heart of darkness unfolding around us? The echoes of the loud bang still reverberated in the air, drowning out the frantic heartbeat that seemed to dominate my thoughts. The shadows grasped at me, and I felt a flicker of fear that threatened to consume our small circle. I instinctively grasped my own hands, fingers digging into my palms, as the intensity of the moment unfolded. Julian's face was a tapestry of anxiety and determination, and a part of me wanted to reach out, to offer comfort amidst the turmoil. Julian, I managed to say, my voice barely above a breath, what does the note say? We can help you, but Julian merely shook his head, the light from his phone trembling in his grip. Not now, he whispered, glancing over toward the door, as if the rawness of his past could burst through at any moment. If it gets out, if they find us, what are you afraid of? The woman beside me urged gently, eyes darting toward him with a blend of fear and curiosity. We're in this together. You can't protect us from the truth. Together, Julian echoed bitterly, the word tasting bitter on his tongue. You don't know what together means in my world. An electric tension filled the room, and I could feel the sense of division growing between Julian and the rest of us. The note glimmered like a secret relic, holding mysteries that felt vast and dangerous. Something deep within me stirred, whispering questions that begged for answers. Please, I pleaded softly, trying to close the gap. You're not alone, Julian. Whatever this is, we'll figure it out together. His gaze shifted momentarily, and in those haunted depths, I glimpsed the flicker of hope I longed to nurture. However, the second bang on the door splintered the moment, a reminder of our precarious reality. I could see the clock on the wall ticking loudly, reminding us that time was an enemy playing out a merciless symphony. Suddenly, we heard hurried footsteps outside, the sharp echo of boots on linoleum, too organized, too imminent. A surge of adrenaline ignited within me, and I turned toward the others. We need to find a way out of here. If someone is looking for you, Julian, we can't stay put. But doubt creased his brow, keeping him anchored in place. You don't understand the stakes, what they want from me, he said, voice trembling. If you get dragged into this, it will not just be an office lockdown, it could become a disaster that implicates you in everything. In that moment, I saw the shadows of his past loom large, yet also a glimmer of what could be a spark that could ignite our collective strength against the darkness. My heart ached for him, and yet I felt the weight of responsibility for my own life and the lives surrounding us. We can't let fear paralyze us, Julian. We need to make a plan. Amidst the chaos, I watched as people drew closer together, a fragile bond forming against the uncertainty of the outside world. A subtle nod from the woman beside me spoke volumes. We were united, even if Julian wavered. I saw a supply closet down the hall, she said, her voice steadier than the rest of us felt. If we can reach it without being seen, we might have a chance. Are you sure? Julian's voice had dropped again, the worry creeping back. What if they're waiting for us? Then we'll figure it out, I insisted, a surge of determination pushing through the fear. But staying here isn't an option. With one last look at the note, Julian nodded slowly, and I felt relief flicker within my chest. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. All right, he said, swallowing hard, we'll move together. Follow my lead. As we began to gather our things, the darkness felt less suffocating, even with the pounding fear that pulsed just outside the door. Every step toward Julian gave me a fragile hope that together we could deconstruct the walls that had imprisoned us for a moment too long. However, just as we approached the exit, the door swung open with a loud crash, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows on the threshold. My breath hitched, and I recoiled instinctively as eyes locked onto ours, intense, searching, malevolent. I found you, the figure said, voice low and Gravelia monstrosity revealed against the dim light. Julian's body froze beside me, and dread erupted within me as the overwhelming realization crashed down. Whatever secret he had held before, it was now threatening to unravel, spilling onto the floor at our feet like poison. In that moment, the door to our world had swung wide open, and the truth, bitter and sharp, hovered on the brink of revelation. What lay ahead? Only despair hung balefully in the air, leaving us shrouded in uncertainty. Panic surged through the room like a wild firestorm, and the imposing figure still lingered at the doorway, an ominous sentinel to our fate. The light illuminated a face that was both familiar and foreboding, a reflection of fears I didn't even know I possessed. My heart raced as I caught a glimpse of the man's thick, tousled hair and sharp jawline. Eric, Julian's estranged father, had entered our reality, dark and heavy with unspoken histories and pain. Get away from him. I shouted instinctively, propelled by a protective instinct that I didn't know I had for Julian. I stepped forward, placing myself between Eric and Julian, my heart thundering in my chest. You're not taking him anywhere, such a brave little rabbit, Eric sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. But we both know how this ends. You're just a distraction, and distractions need. He paused as if relishing the moment, to be eliminated. My gaze darted nervously to Julian. Fear and hatred tangled in his eyes, and the flicker of hope I had seen moments before died instantly as Eric's presence swallowed him whole. Julian, I whispered, both a plea and a lantern, you don't have to go with him, this is your chance, Julian. Eric called with a taunting edge, face reality for once, but Julian's shoulders slumped as he took a step back, retreating into the shadows. No, don't listen to him. Don't you see? He asked, anguish coating his voice. You don't understand what he's capable of. You don't understand what he wants from me, tell me what he wants. I implored, desperation turning my words frantic. Please, Julian. We can fight this together. We don't have to fight. Eric interjected, his smugness sending shivers up my spine. We just need to accept our place. The world has its rules, and in his case, he needs to learn what it means to belong to truly serve the family name, serve? Is that what this is about? I spat back, anger rising to the surface. What kind of father seeks to control his son like a pawn on a chessboard, a father who understands the weight of legacy, and the consequences of stepping out of line, which you, Eric, cast a derisive glance in my direction, and your little group failed to grasp. This isn't a game that I end that moment. Julian felt 1,000 miles away, trapped in turmoil and agony, reaching for something lost that he may never find. Julian, please. I urged, desperate for him to see that his chains were only illusions, shadows cast by a life that didn't have to dictate him. You are stronger than this. Don't let him take you again, you don't know what he's really capable of, Julian whispered, his voice cracking under the weight of his own truth. I can't risk you getting hurt, not like before. The words swallowed my heart, and I could feel time freezing in that moment, every second stretching toward the unknown. What do you mean, Julian? Eric's eyes glimmered with a cruel amusement. Oh, you haven't heard? Your dear friend carries the family's shame, a burden too heavy for him to bear. He thinks he can escape, but it always catches up. Just like those who think they can outrun their shadows. A chill danced along my spine as uncertainty coiled tightly around my heart. I wanted to scream at him, to lash out, but instead, I turned my focus to Julian, who seemed to wither beneath his father's words. Just tell us the truth, Julian. We're here for you. Whatever it is, we can face it together. Tears welled in his eyes as he wrestled with his thoughts. You don't understand, I wanted to protect you. I thought if I could stay away from my family, I could keep you safe. I felt my throat tighten with despair. In the frail moments of fear and confusion, the bonds we had started to build threatened to fray. But protecting me by pushing me away? That doesn't make sense. Before he could respond, Eric stepped in, his presence suffocating. This is over. Come with me, Julian. Or his voice dropped to a low, menacing whisper. Your little friends will pay the price, don't you dare. I exclaimed, my voice laced with outrage. You won't threaten us, threats are all I have left for men like you, Eric said, his eyes sharpening. Dangerously as he took a step closer to Julian. You don't know neither your place nor your strength. I will not allow the family name to be sullied by the likes of you or anyone you care about. Enough. Julian yelled, his voice breaking through the layers of fear, determination threading through the cracks. I'm done hiding. You don't own me, but as those words left his lips, a shudder of realization washed over me. An unspeakable truth lingered in the air, hanging between us like tendrils of smoke, a revelation desperate to break free. What had he meant by before? What had happened to him that was so awful it could tether him to Eric's world? The air grew thick with silence, overshadowed by Eric's low chuckle that reverberated like a tolling bell, promising destruction. I felt the walls of our fragile universe close in around us, and I grasped Julian's hand tightly, a silent covenant in the heat of battle. But with each shaky breath, I knew we were spiraling toward a reckoning. Time pressed onward, and with it, the stakes raised higher than any of us were prepared for. Just when it seemed we had no more moves left to make, I caught Julian's gaze, the darkness in his eyes reflecting a determination that suddenly reignited my own resolve. In that shared moment of vulnerability, a small glimmer of hope formed amidst the chaos, but the shadows around us thickened. We had yet to uncover the deepest wound, and Eric was still there, waiting. Make a choice, Julian, Eric taunted, crossing his arms as if relishing the impending fallout. Your little friends or your family's future. Choose wisely. And as the weight of the moment fell heavily onto my shoulders, dread curled its fingers around my heart, leaving me shattered at the crossroads of truth and loyalty. The only answer was silence, sorrow echoing louder than words as Julian stood at the precipice, teetering between the life he had known, and the life he could choose. The silence in the room felt like an insufferable weight, pressing down on each of us, as if demanding an answer that could wield the power to fracture lives. Julian's eyes danced between Eric's anger and my anxious support, a tempest brewing beneath his seemingly composed surface. The hallways of his heart echoed with memories I could only guess at, and the fear of those shadows growing into giants was palpable. "Julian," I whispered again, "find your voice. Please." Suddenly, Eric stepped back, seizing the moment to shift the tides in his favor. "You want to know what happened before? Let me tell you. What happened before was a failure as a father to control what was mine." His voice dripped with disdain as he pointed a finger at Julian. "Every scar on his body is a reminder of that, every wound a testament that he couldn't fight against the truth." "Stop!" Julian cried out, his voice cracking under the pressure. "You don't get to turn my pain into a weapon." Those words, sharp and piercing, hung in the air momentarily, arresting the chaotic spiral surrounding us. I saw it then, the crack in Julian's facade, the flicker of vulnerability that Eric had capitalized on for years. Julian's internal struggle was not just with Eric, it was with himself, a battle between the sun trying to carve a path into the light and the boy who felt eternally tethered to shadows. "Eric," I interrupted, my voice shaking with righteous fury. "You treat him like he's your possession. He's a person, not a pawn in your twisted game. You speak of legacy as if it's shackles binding him to a fate he never chose. Is this how you show love?" The moment my words echoed back, Eric's demeanor shifted, morphing from haughty disdain to something quite dark rage. "Do not question my love, girl. You wouldn't know the meaning of family." He turned sharply back to Julian, and I could practically feel the heat radiating from their discord. "You think you can step away? That there won't be consequences? You're not brave, you're a coward for hiding behind her. Maybe I'm just trying to find the courage to face you." Julian shot back, his voice steadier now, tinged with a flame igniting in his chest. "Maybe I've been hiding from both of you for too long." In that moment, I saw something shift in Julian, a burgeoning strength that could light up the night. I steadied my breath, reaching my hand further toward him, inviting him to take hold. "Don't let him tear you down. You're so much more than the scars he's given you." Julian's gaze flickered to me, a question swirling in his depths. Could he break free? The answer was still tangled in his own doubts, but a fleeting moment of clarity sparked in the air. I took a breath, feeling suddenly bold, overwhelmed by a surge of an inexplicable connection. I had to show him that love, true love, formed through the messiest of battles. "That I don't care about legacies," I said, urgency rising. "What matters is now, you, me, us. Let's break this cycle together. We don't need to define ourselves by his mistakes." Eric stepped in closer, a predator encroaching upon his prey, his voice a low hiss that rattled through me. "Enough of this charade. You think your precious words can shield him from reality? You're foolishly naive to think you can replace blood with empty promises." Julian flinched at the word blood, and I felt the air in the room shift unnervingly. The flicker of hope that had ignited moments before wavered as if it had been caught in a sudden, icy gust. "Blood doesn't dictate who we are," I exclaimed, my pulse racing as Eric's presence wrapped around us like a noose. "And love? Love is what we choose, not what's forced upon us. You think you've made Julian weak, but look at him. He's standing tall, speaking his truth." Just then, a sudden sound echoed through the hallway, a sharp crack as if the world were fracturing under the weight of our emotions. I turned to the doorway, heart in my throat, and saw a flicker of movement, two figures materializing in the shadows behind Eric, their faces obscured. A sense of foreboding prickled against my skin, and I felt Julian tense beside me. Sensing the shift, "Who are they?" Julian muttered, that tempest of fear roaring back into his eyes. Eric turned sharply, his smugness faltering for the briefest of heartbeats as two more forms stepped into the flickering light, a woman with striking features and a man with disheveled hair, eyes wide and frantic. "Please, Julian, you have to listen to me." The woman's voice was laced with urgency, as if she had been scrambling through a maze of chaos to reach him. "It's not what it seems. We're here to help you." "Help?" Eric spat, his fury reigniting at this unexpected intrusion. "This is no place for you." But before we could grasp the implications of this new turn of events, Julian's expression closed off, a wall of determination shielding the vulnerability underneath. "What did you mean by help?" Who are you? They're toxic, Eric sneered, dismissing the newcomers in a wave. They just want to infiltrate your mind, twist you further away from what's real. I felt the tension shift, a new layer of complexity burrowing into the frayed edges of our reality. Julian looked back at me, a flicker of anguish flashing through his features as he stood at the precipice once more. No, I whispered, feeling the weight of the moment. You can't let them drag you back into this, Julian. Help. Julian shouted, laying bare his fears, reaching out like a vulnerable child lost in a storm. Will someone help me? Within those words, a new chilling truth crashed down over us. Sometimes, asking for help means risking everything. The air hung heavy around us, a desperate plea mingling with unresolved legacies as Julian was caught between two worlds, a pull he could hardly understand. Eric's lips curled into a cold smile, and in that moment, I realized how precarious our resolve truly was, as we stood teetering on the edge of a deeper abyss. What other secrets were lurking beneath the surface, and who were these strange figures that dared to enter this deadly dance? As silence enveloped us once more, I held on to hope, but that hope began to shift toward an inexplicable dread as Julian's dimensions shrunk and the shadows closed in, darkening our chances of survival. The silence that enveloped the room was stifling, pressing down like a heavy fog that dulled our senses. I could see it in Julian's eyes, a flicker of desperation, a glimmer of hope, and an undercurrent of fear mingled in the depths of his gaze. As the two figures stood poised at the threshold like specters of an uninvited past, the emotional storm inside Julian's heart became palpable. Please, the woman implored, stepping forward cautiously, as if every movement could shatter the fragile atmosphere around us. You don't understand what you're up against, Julian. You need to know the truth. Eric scoffed, but the tension in the air told me that the stakes had shifted. Julian was fighting a battle that was much bigger than I had fully grasped. He stepped forward, hesitantly, caught between the life he knew and the unknown that loomed in front of him. Who are you? Julian demanded, his voice trembling with confusion but firm with a newfound resolve. What do you want from me? We want to save you, the man said urgently, his disheveled hair fluttering slightly as if brushed by the winds of a tempest. From him. He nodded toward Eric, whose expression shifted from contempt to righteous indignation. Save? From me? Eric blustered, taking a menacing step forward. The heat radiating from his figure was suffocating, a potent reminder of the ties that bound Julian to this man. You're preying on his insecurities, that's all. Don't listen to them, Julian. No, I interjected, my voice rising alongside the tension. You deserve to know the truth, Julian. If they're here, it's because they want to help you break free. Help? Julian's face twisted with uncertainty, torn between his life with Eric and the uncertainty that the newcomers represented. What kind of help can you offer? The woman took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts as though they were precious wisps of clarity. Your father isn't who you think he is. He's woven a web of lies, framed your existence as an obligation instead of a choice. He's kept you in the dark to hide the truth about your mother. Don't you dare speak of her. Eric's voice boomed, a tyrant guarding his fortress. But even he felt the quiver of vulnerability in that moment, as if the damning truth threatened to drown him. Julian's breath hitched, and the realization of potential secrets weighed heavily between us. My mother? He echoed, his voice barely a whisper, as if the truth of her existence had the power to shift the entire universe. Yes, Julian, the woman urged, hoping to connect the shattered pieces of his heart. We know about the accident, the truth about who was really to blame. Your mother didn't just disappear, she was caught in the crossfire of a series of choices that were never hers to make. Eric's eyes blazed with fury, but now, there was a growing storm behind Julian's. What do you mean? His voice pierced the tension, demanding clarity amidst the chaos. What did you find? The man exchanged a glance with the woman, a silent recognition passing between them as they braced themselves for Julian's reaction. We found records, documents, testimonies, evidence that contradicts everything you've been told. He's hidden it from you. Julian manipulated the narrative to paint himself as the hero and you as the failure. The atmosphere crackled around us, filled with the electric charge of truth pulsating beneath the surface. I could see a flicker of emotions play across Julian's face, rage, betrayal, grief, and the oppressive weight of something unyielding. Desperation coursed through me. This was the moment he could choose to break free. The truth will be your weapon, Julian, I whispered, urging him to look beyond the veil of Eric's control. You don't have to carry this burden alone. Let them help you find it. But before he could respond, Eric lunged forward, fury igniting the air. Enough. You think you can come here and poison my son against me? You're nothing but a pair of strangers looking for the next opportunity to twist the knife deeper. Dad, stop. Julian's voice boomed over his father's, resonating with authority that he had never dared to wield before. You've twisted everything for years. I need to know the truth about my mother, and I'm tired of living in the shadows of lies. If you really loved me, you'd let me discover who I am. With that sentence, the very foundations of their relationship trembled beneath us. Eric paused, aghast as the oppressive weight of his son's words hit like a tidal wave. Julian was standing taller than I'd ever seen him, no longer merely a reflection of Eric but a burgeoning individual seeking his own identity. And if you refuse to let me? Julian continued, his voice steady now, resonating with a strength I could barely recognize. Then I'll find it myself. That I end that moment. The atmosphere shifted, a revelation weighing heavily on the edges of our shared reality. Something monumental had shifted within Julian, a door opening toward the truth, but it threatened to disrupt the very fabric of Eric's carefully maintained narrative. I'll make sure you regret this, Julian, Eric hissed, his voice suddenly low and menacing, an echo of the nightmare still lurking beneath the surface. Let him go, Eric. My words were soft but steely, full of the resolve I felt for Julian and the fear of what Eric was capable of. You don't own him. Not anymore. A tumultuous silence filled the room as Julian's resolve crystallized. But in that stillness, an unexpected sound broke through the vibrations of a mobile phone imminent in its distress. Julian's expression shifted to one of alarm, his hands shaking as he fumbled through his pockets, eyes wide in recognition. It's my mother's old phone, he murmured, disbelieving. The screen lit up with an unexpected message, illuminating his face with a pale blue glow. I haven't seen it in years. I thought it was lost. As the tension in the room escalated, the screen revealed a name, one that sent shudders rippling through the already taut atmosphere. The message was brief, chilling in its abruptness. Julian, I'm still here. We need to talk. Trust no one. The world around us tilted, reality unraveling in the face of a new, breathtaking revelation. Julian's heart raced, striking a discordant rhythm against the drumbeat of anger and betrayal filling the room. In that moment, we all grasped the gravity of what lay ahead, a tapestry of truths entwined, waiting to be unraveled. What other scars would come to light when the darkness finally retreated? The air felt electric as Julian's eyes locked onto the glowing screen of his mother's phone, the soft blue light illuminating the swirling emotions etched on his face: confusion, fear, and an aching need for connection. I could see his heart racing, feeling the gravity of the words urging him, trust no one. It reverberated through the room like a haunting melody. Eric's face was a mask of contradictory emotions, rage battling with disbelief at the sudden turn of events. That's impossible, he spat, trying to regain control of the situation. Your mother is gone, Julian. Whatever this is, it's a lie. Maybe it's you who's been lying all along, Julian countered, his voice tremoring under the weight of 1,000 unspoken truths. You kept me from learning about her, about everything. But now his voice cracked, revealing the vulnerability hidden beneath his newfound strength. Now, I can't ignore this. I need to know what happened. I could see the internal battle raging in Julian. The echo of Eric's dominance had been a heavy cloak for too long. This moment was critical. Either the weight of his father's world would drag him back, or he would choose to step into the uncertain light of the unknown. It feels unreal, Julian whispered, more to himself than to anyone else, fingers trembling as he reached for the phone. Could she really still be out there? A flicker of hope ignited in his eyes, a lighthouse appearing through the fog. Don't do this, Julian. Eric's urgent voice cut through the air like a knife. You don't know what you're getting into. She left us, abandoned you. Why would you trust her now? For a fleeting moment, I felt the sprawl of sorrow intertwining with my own heartsickness. In Eric's eyes, I witnessed the fear of losing control over Julian, the last vestiges of the father he believed had been. But Julian was no longer the confused boy relegated to a role dictated by Eric's needs. He stood at the precipice of a decision that would alter the course of his life forever. It's not about trusting her, Julian said, his voice gaining strength with each syllable. It's about understanding the truth. I've spent my whole life silenced by your stories. I need to know, I have to know. Just as he reached to unlock the phone, a blood-curdling scream erupted from behind us. The woman, the one who had implored Julian to seek the truth, collapsed to the floor, clutching her stomach. Her partner rushed to her side, panic flooding his features. What's happening? Are you okay? His voice was frantic, the tension in the room multiplying dangerously. Julian looked between the scene before him and the phone, torn in that harrowing moment. What's wrong with her? He asked, his voice rising in urgency. It's the stress, the man said, trying to guide the woman to a sitting position. I swear, she's just, but the words faltered, and the woman gasped, the pain etched into her features stark against the surreal background of our escalating confrontation. Julian, she breathed, struggling to maintain consciousness. You have to listen to me. He knelt beside her, instinctively placing a hand on her shoulder, while Eric's anger seemed to pulsate through the air, thick and unyielding. She didn't want to tell you while this was happening, the man said, anguish coloring his words. But there's a reason we're all here. We need to move quickly. Move? Julian echoed, his eyes darting between the two figures and the locked screen of his mother's phone. What are you talking about? What do we need to move from? The man leaned closer, urgency etched in every line of his face. Eric knows more than he's letting on. There are forces at play, things he's been trying to hide, and they're dangerous. If he finds out we're here, Julian's expression shifted to one of horror, the fragmented pieces of his life crashing together in an unsettling wave of realization. He turned slowly, whispering toward Eric, what are you hiding from me? What's the real story? Eric's eyes widened for a moment, caught, then narrowed, his fury boiling into a dark, desperate denial. You don't understand, Julian. I did everything to protect you, to save you. From the chaos. This is not a game, I'm not a child anymore. Julian fired back, the weight of 1,000 arguments flashing in his eyes. We stood at a crossroads now, the culmination of years of control coming to a head, and the atmosphere thickened with impending crisis. Then, all at once, the phone buzzed again, a sharp sound slicing through the mounting tension, pulling us back to the blaring reality. Julian's fingers hesitated, hovering over the screen, anxiety and hope warring within him. What could this text possibly reveal? Should he risk it all for the fleeting vision of a truth long buried? But before he could respond, the woman gasped again, this time a name escaping her lips, a name that shattered everything. Julian. You must run. They're coming for you. A quiet clicked into place inside me. I had hoped for a revelation of familial bonds, secrets, and love buried in shadows, but this was something darker. A chill skated down my spine as I glanced at Eric. His face was an open book of apprehension now, stripped bare of bravado. Suddenly, the lights flickered overhead, the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps approaching echoed from the corridor outside. An overwhelming dread flooded the room, anchoring us in place as the reality of the warning sunk in. What have you done? Julian breathed, as Eric's expression turned from anger to panic. Julian, Eric started, but the words trailed off, swallowed by the fear at the door, and suddenly, it appeared before us, a looming shadow obscured by the doorway, shrouded in unwelcome arrival. In that instant, everything hung precariously in the balance, the truth visibly quaking from all sides. The fragile alliances forged in moments of desperation felt lost beneath the impending chaos as the door swung open, a new threat emerging, shattering the fragile hope that had begun to bloom. The shadow stepped into view, tall and menacing, its features obscured by the harsh fluorescent lights overhead. My heart raced, instinctively searching for an exit, but the room felt void of any escape. Julian's breath hitched beside me, likely mirroring my own growing fear as he absorbed the figure's imposing presence. Who are you? Julian stammered, his voice breaking under the pressure. The figure advanced, silhouetted against the hallway that now felt desolate and ominous. It's not who I am that matters, the stranger said, an unsettling calm in their voice that contrasted sharply with the frantic energy in the room. What matters is what he knows. You're Julian, right? We need to talk. That I watched as Julian's resolve wavered, flickering like a candle threatened by an erratic breeze. What do you want with me? He demanded, though the tremble in his tone betrayed his bravado. the shadows moved, revealing sharp features and piercing green eyes that seemed to take in every detail of Julian's anxious demeanor. "Your father is holding on to secrets that could destroy everything," the figure stated, the weight of their words spinning around us like a cyclone. "I'm here to help you uncover them or what remains of your life." Eric's anger ignited once again, morphing the fear in his eyes into a rage I had only glimpsed before. "You need to leave. You have no right to speak to my son," he shouted, his voice booming through the tense air. The stranger regarded Eric with a steely gaze. "It's already too late for that, isn't it? The past has a way of catching up, Eric. You can't hide forever." Julian's resolve hardened. "What past? What are you talking about?" He swallowed hard, planting his feet firmly on the ground, determination erasing the traces of fear that lingered behind his eyes. The woman on the floor gasped as she struggled to sit upright, her strength visibly waning. "We need to go, Julian, now. If they find us, who is they?" Julian pressed, his defenses rising like a fortress around him. "What is happening?" With every second, the tension spiraled tighter around us, the ticking clock reminding me of the panic rising inside. The lights flickered uncertainly, and a sudden rush of voices echoed outside in the hall, urgent whispers that hinted at a brewing storm, and then the unexpected kindness came, seeping in from the shadows. The stranger stepped forward, lowering their voice. "Look, I know this is frightening. But I can get you out of here. You have to trust me, even if you don't trust what I'm saying. Your mother, she's more connected to all of this than you think. If we don't act quickly, she might never forgive us." A wave of realization washed over Julian, each word wrapping tighter around his heart. I could see him grappling with the truths that had been hidden for so long, pulling at the threads that connected him to both his mother and his father. "Why? Why should I trust you?" he finally asked, vulnerability swimming beneath the surface. "Because," the stranger said, eyes softened, "I wasn't supposed to tell you this, but I have reason to believe she's been watching over you. Whatever happened, whatever forced her to leave, it was to protect you. But it's not safe anymore." Eric looked panicked, stepping forward as if to bar Julian from the truth. "This is all nonsense. You're being manipulated, Julian. Don't listen to them." But Julian's gaze bore into the stranger's, digging for a sincerity that desperately tugged at his heart. "What do I need to do? There's a transport waiting. If we act now, we can be out of here in moments, away from him and all of this. Your life could be different, Julian. Whatever path you choose next, it's yours." With every heartbeat, the urgency in the air climbed higher. The door frame trembled slightly as more footsteps echoed dangerously close. I could hear voices whispering in impending peril, drawing nearer, shadows scattering across the door like ominous harbingers of dread. "Now, Julian," the stranger urged, eyes darting toward the entrance, anticipating the threat. "Not without my mother," Julian said with unwavering resolve, clenching his fists at his sides. But beneath that steadfast exterior, I sensed a storm brewing, vulnerability mingling with unyielding strength. Suddenly, the woman gasping on the floor whispered frantically, "You have to go, Julian. Don't wait for me. It's the only way to keep you safe." A surge of anguish rushed through Julian, and in that split second, he felt the crushing weight of his choices. "No. I can't leave you." His voice shattered as the cracks in his brave facade started to merge with tears. "Julian, you must," she choked out, blood rushing to her lips. "You're too important. You have a chance to change everything. Don't throw it away." At that moment, the door burst open, the tangible chaos of the outside world flooding in, igniting raw panic. The atmosphere turned electric once more, every breath slicing through the impending darkness surrounding us. Julian stood at an emotional crossroads, fraught with desperation and hope, the longing to shed the support of his father's grasp clashing against the yearning to hold on to familial love. His heart was split wide open, teetering on the edge of an impossible choice, while chaos threatened to drag him further into the unknown. "Take my hand," the stranger shouted, extending a hand toward the way out. "You may not have time to think. Trust me. I can save you." Torn between the cries and the chaos, it came down to a visceral moment of truth. But even as Julian reached out, a deafening crack resounded through the air, a sound less like a door opening and more like a threshold breaking, everything shifting as the choice crystallized, and suddenly, the reality around him plunged into darkness. The weight of his decision hung in the air, heavy like smoke, as the unknown loomed a chilling reminder of the price for discovery, and in that fleeting moment, everything changed forever. In the depths of that sudden darkness, a bittersweet clarity emerged, slicing through the chaos like a shard of ice. Julian felt dizzy, as if he'd been jetting back and forth between anxiety and heartache, the ground beneath his feet tilting dangerously away from him. Sounds flickered like a dying light bulb, voices, shouts, and the unmistakable clang of something heavy hitting the floor. He didn't know how long he stood suspended between two worlds, one collapsing, the other shimmering just out of reach. Amid the turmoil, he felt the stranger's hand slip into his own, warm and steady. It was a stark contrast to the petrified stares and desperate pleas clashing around him. "Stay close," the stranger urged, prompting Julian to take a breath and push himself into action. Just ahead, the outline of the exit flickered in and out of focus, a promise of escape from the wrath of his father and the unsettling revelations clinging to the air. He could hardly register the woman's spluttering gasps or Eric's enraged shouts now. All that registered was the sound of the stranger's calming breath and an overwhelming urge to survive. They rushed towards the door, the echo of footsteps pounding behind them, a constant reminder that time was of the essence. They burst outside into a dimly lit corridor, the fluorescent lights flickering sporadically, bathed in a surreal glow that only heightened Julian's adrenaline. "This way," the stranger commanded, dragging him down a narrow passage. Each step was a jolt of hope, merging with the terror still lurking in his chest. As they navigated through winding paths, they caught fleeting glimpses of their surroundings, a labyrinth of gray walls, sharp corners, and the ever-present hum of fluorescent lights buzzing above them, echoing Julian's own pulse. But within him blazed a desperate need for answers. "You said my mother has been watching over me." His voice cracked with an unyielding urgency. "How do you know this? Who are you?" The stranger glanced back, urgency still painted in their eyes. "I can't explain everything right now, but I promise you, I'm trying to help. Your mother, she was involved in things you can't even begin to comprehend. Things that put you both in danger." At that moment, another thought clawed its way to the forefront of Julian's mind. What about the woman? We can't just leave her behind, he implored, the horror of her state replaying in his mind like a grim film on repeat. "We have no choice, Julian. If we don't move now, all of this will unravel." As they neared a corner, Julian felt a pang of shame and guilt wash over him. Even in the midst of sheer chaos, his heart sank with the realization that he was okay with leaving someone behind, someone who had been trying to protect him for far too long. But then, in the thick of indecision, a sudden weight gripped his heart. A callous grip caught his arm, whirling him around. To his shock, it was Eric, eyes wild with desperation. "Listen to me, Julian. You can't trust them, please. They know nothing about our family, our story, your story." Julian spat back, resent flooding his chest. "You've kept me in the dark. All this time, you've lied to me." He could see the fissure in his father's composure, a strange, fleeting flicker of vulnerability, but it vanished almost instantly, replaced by a stubborn resolve. "You think this is about me? This is about protecting you. There's so much you don't know." With a sudden shove, Julian broke free from Eric's grasp. "I need answers, not your excuses." Tears of rage and confusion welled in his eyes as he turned to the stranger, a glimmer of trust awakening within him. "Let's go." Pushing forward, they rounded the corner only to find themselves staring down a barricade, solid wall of another group, faces shadowed under dark hoods, blocking their path with an unyielding authority. Julian's heart raced anew, sensing that this would be the moment when everything splintered apart, yet a flicker of determination ignited in his chest. "We have to fight," Julian whispered fiercely, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Or we find another way," the stranger replied, scanning the area. Julian couldn't tell if it was fear or strategy in their tone, but he knew one thing was for sure: there was no turning back now. In a split second of clarity, a door half ajar was revealed through the chaos behind the looming figures. "There!" Julian shouted, thrusting his arm toward the exit. Without waiting for a response, he darted for the crack in the barricade, hoping against hope that they could slip through before they were caught. As they sprinted toward freedom, the air turned thick with tension. Sharp shouts erupted behind them, voices riotous with intent and urgency as the figures began to shift, closing the distance. But Julian was fueled by something fierce now: knowledge, love, desperation. Just as they reached for the door, a sharp cry echoed above the clamorous voices. His heart stuttered as he spun around to realize it was the woman from earlier. Fear and disbelief crashed over him like waves as she stumbled into the light, desperation flickering in her eyes. "Julian, wait, please," she gasped, the familiar color draining from her face. The moment hung delicately in the air, suspended between worlds once more, the choice to push forward or retreat into the fiery unknown where everything they yearned to uncover lay hidden. But in that split second, everything he believed shattered. Her voice, laden with pain and urgent resolve, spoke louder than any words he thought would ever matter, revealing a truth he never wanted to confront. "I'm your mother," she breathed, the shock shattering Julian in place, hearts colliding in a cacophony of dread and hope. I stood there, frozen in the chaos surrounding us as the world imploded with that one simple confession. "I'm your mother." Her voice reverberated through my bones, animating emotions I had only glimpsed before, a deep yearning flickering into life within me like a long-dormant fire being stoked back to existence. This woman, whose visage remained hauntingly familiar even through years of absence, stood before me, a specter from the past that I had never known to exist in reality. Eric's face contorted in rage, angling toward the woman. "You shouldn't be here. You told me you were gone. This is beyond reckless." His fury shattered the moment's tenderness, but I was adrift, spiraling into a vortex of shock. Why were you gone?" I demanded, my voice hoarse from the emotional whirlwind that I had to protect you, Julian. She cried, desperation lacing her words, cascading through my chest like ice water. "The choices I made were for your safety, yours and mine, protecting me." I shouted back, feeling the weight of all those lost years crash upon me like waves on a rocky shore. "You've kept me in the dark. I never even knew what happened." The figures behind us stirred with urgency as they drew perilously close, shadows writhed with malevolence, creeping toward the light. Suddenly, I felt a burning desire for connection, for the truth, for the chance to fight back against the darkness that had long overshadowed my existence. "Don't you understand? I've spent my whole life searching for you, feeling your absence like a missing piece of myself. And now you just waltz back in?" The hurt poured from me, raw and unfiltered. Her gaze faltered, her resolve slipping momentarily. "I know. I'm sorry, but you need tone to what?" I interrupted, heart racing, adrenaline coursing. "Need to run again? Be a ghost?" The sound of footsteps grew louder, and Eric seized the opportunity, pushing forward. "Julian, this isn't the time for theatrics. You need to get out of here before what?" I countered, turning my fierceness on him. "Before you unleash your chaos on the truth?" "Enough!" Eric roared, but I felt the strength of newfound conviction flowing through me, unraveling chains that had bound me to his legacy for far too long. The woman, the realness of her presence ignited something beyond my fears. The pieces of my life had been filled with shadows, now erupting into the light with this unexpected unveiling. "Julian," she pleaded, reaching for me. "Trust me. I know what's at stake." The intruding figures advanced, shadows coiling at our heels. I could sense the danger of being caught in Eric's snare, but I also felt the rising tide of legacy shifting in my favor. I took a deep breath, grasping for hope. "If we stay here, we're all dead, no matter what our history is." "I won't run anymore, and I won't let you take my life," I proclaimed, shaking with defiance, my voice strong within the clamor. As I turned my resolve toward the flickering doorway, the threatening presence behind us intensified. I could taste fear and resolve like bitter and sweet honey mingling together. "We're leaving together, all of us." My single declaration shattered the tension, a promise echoing with a fierce determination. "Then go," Eric shouted, fury rising, but my mother stood unwavering, her strength becoming a shield and a weapon against the approaching storm. "I won't let you take my son." "Not again." With that rallying cry, the floodgates opened. As the figures in the shadows attempted to close in, we needed to forge our way through. "Now!" I urged my mother and the stranger, my heart hammering against the uncertainty. Adrenaline propelled us forward as we surged toward the door just ahead, me mother's voice and the stranger's urgency propelling me to fight against the terror clawing at our heels. I could feel time compressing around us, every heartbeat resonant with potential, drawing me closer to a new reality. Through the door, we tumbled back into the chaos beyond a world that was not just Eric's but ours to reclaim. Surrounded by echoes of collective fears and pounding footsteps, I felt both buoyed and torn. The journey had just begun, but with it flickered seeds of belonging and the specter of past trauma still looming. Together, Julian shouted, eyes locked on my mother, finding solace in the conviction of our shared fight. No more running, this ends today. The strength of those words bore through the retreating shadows, illuminating a new path. The truth felt heavy yet liberating, a charter of unity against the chaos. And as we charged into the uncertainty, carving out a space for me, for her, I knew at long last I would no longer just be defined by inheritance or a legacy dictated by others. We slammed the door behind us as a life of shadows expanded and gave way into the brilliance of reality. With courage as my compass, I could finally walk free. Together we would stand against the tides that threatened to consume us. And in that powerful, raw connection, we found the strength to embrace the truth as our greatest weapon, a testament to love however painful it could be, us the ultimate savior. Sometimes, it's in the gripping darkness that we earn the light of our truest selves. Sometimes, we are reborn from the ashes, daring to defy what was once thought insurmountable. As I ventured into the uncharted territory of my life, gripped by determination, I realized liberation often cloaked itself in the most unexpected places. And sometimes, to finally discover who you are, you must first unearth all that you are meant to rise against. In every light, there is a shadow, and in every shadow, there's a truth longing to be set free. Together, we would unveil our story. Together, we could rise above